is Tuesday, around 9:30 in Los Angeles. It is already hot, super hot, sweating. And the first day of school. So if you're on right now from LA, thank you. You are weathering a lot of stuff out there. And if you can't make it for the whole thing, that's fine, because we will, as always, post it on the group. So this morning we're going to talk about different diets. And of course, we can't talk about all the diets out there. There are hundreds. Every year I am part of the working group that rates and ranks the different diets for US News and World Report. And it's always incredible to me how many new diets pop up. Fad diets, popular diets, medical diets. So there's a lot out there. And of course, I can't go through everything, but I'm going to try and go through some main categories for now. So the first category of diets that I want to talk about is the keto diet, because of course, right now, that is still the most popular diet out there. It's a spin-off of many years of low-carb diets, starting with Atkins, including paleo, including, there's one that I'm missing that's super popular, but it'll come to me. But anyways, it's a spin-off of the low-carb diet to a very significant restriction in carbohydrate, and essentially it's no carb. In order to follow the keto or ketosis diet, one needs to restrict their carbohydrate intake to about 45 to 50 grams. And to just give you an example, that's about a slice of bread. So within 24 hours, the carbohydrate intake needs to be restricted to about one slice of bread in carbs in order to go into ketosis. So what happens with the keto diet? Essentially, carbohydrates are broken down into their basic components, which is sugar or glucose. And glucose is what is readily available in the bloodstream for our muscles to use in order to move and exercise, and for our brains to use in order to think and to cognate. What happens when our blood supply of sugar or glucose goes away is that our liver breaks down stored glucose, which is glycogen, and releases the glycogen stores in the form of glucose in the blood supply. And that, again, gets used up. But when people follow a very, very carbohydrate restricted diet, as in the keto diet, the blood glucose finishes, the glycogen stores finish, and so then there needs to be another source of energy. And the brain specifically cannot use fatty acids or fat as energy. Your muscles can, but your brain cannot. And so what happens is that fat or fatty acids gets converted in a process called ketosis in order to create an energy form for the brain. And so in that way, you're breaking down fat for energy. Now, it's widely believed that the reason why people lose weight on the keto diet is because they are breaking down fat, and that may be the case. But really the main reason is that people are restricting their carbohydrate intake significantly. Know that the American diet or the Western diet is 85% carbohydrate. And so if you're taking away that huge group of macronutrient, then obviously you're going to restrict your calories significantly and you're going to lose weight. The keto diet can be an effective jump start for weight loss. Again, because you're eliminating all of those carbs, it helps you kind of reset away from all of those carbohydrates, many of which are bad, and we'll talk about the difference between good and bad carbs. But in the long run, there can be side effects. There can be electrolyte problems, there can be vitamin deficiencies. It can result in bone loss and osteoporosis along the long term. And then there are short-term kind of side effects or adverse effects. There's something called the keto flu, where people feel kind of lethargic, no energy, just generalized kind of run-downness. And that's really a function of restricting your carbs to such a degree. So, and then also in the long term, the keto diet, that fat ultimately can cause a rise in total cholesterol and LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. So that is the keto diet in a nutshell. We talked a few weeks ago about intermittent fasting, which is also working similar to the keto diet in the sense that you are taking the body into ketosis. Now, the intermittent fast, just to review quickly, is a umbrella term that includes several different types of fasting. The most common is 8 hours of feeding followed by 16 hours of fasting. Another variation is 6 hours of feeding followed by 18 hours of fasting. So basically you have a period where you consume food 6 to 8 hours, followed by a prolonged period where you fast. And it's in that prolonged period, if you hit 12 hours or greater, where your body will go into ketosis. And again, you have the same situation in using up all your sugar stores and trying to use fat as an energy source. Another way of adhering to the keto diet is to a intermittent fast is an alternate day diet or alternate day fast, where one day you consume or eat regular calories and regular food, followed by a second day in which you restrict your calories to a very low amount, like 500 calories or less. And so that is intermittent fasting. There is some data that it can be helpful in metabolic disorders, cholesterol, visceral fat, which is kind of the fat in the midsection in the belly, which is the harmful kind of fat, reduces blood pressure and increases the lifespan. Ultimately, though, the ability to lose weight with intermittent fasting really depends on how you choose to spend that 6 to 8 hours of eating. And if people are not mindful of their diet in that time, then it's not going to result in weight loss. At the other end of the spectrum, so we talked about really carb restricted and ketogenic diets. At the other end is the Mediterranean style diet. And also what I'd like to talk about, which is the DASH diet, which is an acronym for Dietary Approach to Stop Hypertension. Now, the Mediterranean diet has been really widely studied. It is a pattern of eating that is followed in the Mediterranean countries, which follows a basic pyramid of the bottom level being lots of grains, cereals, breads, believe it or not, lots of carbohydrates. But again, good carbohydrates, they're not processed, they're whole. Followed by things like beans, legumes, which are also carbs, but also high in protein. Followed by lean dairies, eggs, poultry, fish. And at the top of the pyramid, in very small quantities, alcohol, usually wine or red wine, and red meat being limited to once or twice a month. Oh, and of course, the big category of carbohydrates and vegetables. So that's about 6 to 8 cups of fruits and vegetables. And this diet, while it is high, or dietary pattern, I use the word diet as what we consume, not in the way that we use it in pulp culture, which is a restrictive way of eating in order to lose weight. Diet is just what you consume. But the Mediterranean style diet can be restricting or can be a weight losing diet if you can restrict calories. The other benefits, though, of a Mediterranean or DASH diet is that people will really have significant metabolic benefit. It has been shown to reduce the incidence of diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, Alzheimer's disease, cognitive decline, really lots of stuff, including lifestyle diseases that are caused by the way we eat and by the way we move in the world. So I'm really a proponent of the Mediterranean or DASH diet, and I really think it's important to consider carbohydrates in your diet, but also recognize that not all carbs are the same. When we're talking about garbanzo beans, that's not the same as Pop-Tarts or donuts, of which I actually had some yummy sidecar donuts this weekend for my son's bar mitzvah. But that's a digression. Sometimes food. So finally, I wanted to talk about meal replacement diets. So meal replacement loosely is a protein shake, protein bar. Some dietary plans like Nutrisystem or Jenny Craig will have like actual meals, but it's basically something that is packaged to replace a meal. I use the term meal replacement kind of loosely to also include snack replacement. I think that it can be a very effective way to help manage weight by eliminating snacking. So meal replacements actually have a lot of data. In regards to helping people lose weight, it is a great way to jumpstart. It's also a great way to maintain when it's used in a smaller form. I've used and prescribed meal replacements in my medical practice. I have also used it or used it widely when I was working as a director at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, when I was working with weight loss surgery patients, in helping them, despite the small amount of food that they could eat post-bariatric surgery, ensure that they get adequate protein. And that's one of the ways in which meal replacements are really effective and important, is in helping deliver adequate protein while people are losing weight. We know that when people lose weight, they can lose fat mass, which is obviously preferred, or they can lose muscle mass, which obviously we want to mitigate or limit. Studies have shown that when people lose really large numbers of weight, so for example, bariatric surgery patients like we talked about, or even like the Biggest Loser contestants, they lost a significant amount of muscle in addition to the fat. And when that happens, while weight is being lost, percent body fat can actually go up, which is harmful, right? You don't want your body composition to move into the direction of more fat, less muscle. So it's important to pay attention to the kind of weight that you're losing, and you can minimize the loss of muscle by having adequate protein. And again, meal replacements or protein shakes or bars are really helpful in achieving that. Now, there is a wide range of options that are over the counter. And oftentimes my patients would ask for or would buy the medical grade meal replacements, which even those I didn't find helpful because of all of the unnatural ingredients on the label, or would ask what can they purchase over the counter. And really there was nothing that I could recommend. For example, Kind bars do have almonds and good fats, but they're very high in sugar, very low in protein. RX bars also the same, good in the good fats, but again, very limited in protein. And again, for the purpose of weight loss, we need to consume more than the RDA or the recommended dietary allowance or amount of protein. I typically recommend, depending on people's starting weight, at least 60 grams of protein, but often closer to 80 to 100 grams of protein. Cliff Bar, for example, great in the sense of how much protein it has, but way too many calories and way too many added ingredients on their label. So because of my personal belief system and really my belief in the use of meal replacements, and the fact that I really couldn't find anything over the counter that I could in good faith recommend to my patients, I have created my own line of protein bars called the Del Bar. And actually this last week we came out with the Mint Del Bar, Mint Brownie. And while it sounds decadent and tastes amazing, it is devoid of artificial or extra sugars. It does have some sugar in the form of clover honey, but it is created so that it is low in calorie and high in protein. And so I encourage you, if you're looking over the counter for meal replacements to use, look for something that is less than 200 calories and at least 15 grams of protein. And when doing so, you can actually use it not only as a meal replacement, but as a snack replacement. And when I am prescribing or recommending these high protein replacements to patients, I recommend them in two places. One for breakfast, because breakfast is a hard place to get adequate protein. We talk about things as protein during breakfast, eggs being maybe the most popular and the leanest and cleanest. But even an egg at 80 calories only gives you 6 to 7 grams of protein. We're shooting for 20. So protein shake or bar is a great way to get that protein in during breakfast. Why is it important? The studies show that when you have higher amounts of protein at breakfast time, you curb hunger hormones all throughout the day, even into snack time. And people who had a higher or consumed a higher amount of protein at breakfast actually snacked less in the afternoon. So that's really important. The second place I recommend the meal replacement is at snack time. Why? Because really that time from like 4 to 6 p.m. or 3 to 6 p.m., it's what I like to call the witching hour. We go into the pantry, we have a little handful of nuts, maybe a rice cake, maybe a cheese stick, maybe a yogurt, and it becomes this kind of endless progression of snacking, 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 and really a terrible way to end what may have started out as a really good food day. So I like meal replacements because there's a beginning and an end. We know when we're done. And if it's high in protein, then again, it's going to squash those hunger hormones. It's going to suppress those hunger hormones and help people limit the amount of snacking that they need in order to be satisfied. The other thing I love about a high protein snack, like the shake as well, a good protein shake will have on the order of 20 grams of protein for about 80 to 100 calories. Our whey protein fits that bill, and I do like whey protein better than plant-based or pea protein, for example. But having that amount of protein at snack time not only suppresses your appetite in that moment, but it also reduces the volume of food people consume later in the day. So high protein with the use of meal replacements, not necessarily no carb or zero carb, but high protein. Lastly, I wanted to talk about volumetrics or just volume in general. I always recommend high volume. I like to term food and our diet in terms of abundance, not restriction. I don't like to tell people what they can't do, but I want to encourage what they can do more of. We've already talked about the protein, of course. And while I don't limit people's protein intake, I don't say have 3 ounces or 4 ounces or palm of your hand. Eat what you want, what satisfies you, because an extra ounce of chicken is not what's going to be a problem in your diet. But regardless of how much protein you consume, I want people to consume double that amount in veggies. So I tell my guys, if you're gonna have a 12-ounce steak, then you better be ready to have 24 ounces of veggies, which is kind of insane, right? But the premise behind that is volumetrics, or high volume. You are filling your stomach up with very low calorie, very high volume, but most importantly, nutrient dense foods. So for a cup of arugula, which is my favorite filler, a cup of arugula is about 5 calories, but it has almost 30 vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So when we term our diet or our food intake in terms of abundance and thinking of how you can make every bite matter, in consuming a significant amount of fruits and vegetables, you are getting an abundant supply of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and nutrients to your body without bogging it down with a lot of sugars, fats, and lots of calories. So that's a rundown of some of our major buckets of dietary interventions for weight loss and really for health, because if we're eating for health, then our weight will kind of follow. There are, again, millions or maybe hundreds of diets out there. I'm happy to talk about them if you want to post your questions in the chat. I hope you found this review helpful. I hope you guys stay cool. The heat is getting to my brain. I hope you guys stay cool today. And to all the mommies out there who are Zooming with their kids, hopefully your kids are on Zoom. I'm about to go check on mine right now. Hope you weather this back to school season with sanity. Okay, lots of love to everyone.